to the laws of creation. Take 1000. No, this is quite a lot to bring down into one video because it branches off into so many different sort of complexities. And working with it, actually, there are so many different ways of undoing it. So it really depends on if you're watching this in the subscription, if you're watching this on the free, or if you're watching this in the advanced pros. Not sure what I'm going to call that. There might be quite a bit of content here to kind of get through, but we'll start with a kind of overview. So first of all, where we're looking at the different chakras, the laws of creation, we're really looking at the third eye chakra. Okay, so as we're looking at the different kind of explanations and expansions of consciousness, the third eye chakra is kind of the one that is really connected more into the realm of the mystics. So if we're looking at the chakra system from a point of energetics, we're looking at alchemy for the root chakra, so that's connection to so alchemists, past lives, that kind of thing, where we've got alchemy, transmutation led into gold, looking at elements and elementals, alchemy. Then suddenly we hit the shamanic realm, where we're hitting the nature realm, the sister realm, so with the sacral chakra, that's going up. Then we start hitting more the kind of realm of mediumship, spirituality, kind of normal spirituality, where we're hitting the heart chakra, still in the shamanic realm. Then we start going to things like angels, angelic spirit guides. We're now starting to do different kinds of, so in the shamanic realm, we're more looking at nature guides. It's kind of starting to change a little bit. And then when we hit the third chakra, we're going out of that into the realm of the mystics. Okay, so you could say some of the yoga siddhus would relate to this kind of thing as well. So the realm of the mystics, third eye chakra. Now, if you think about the laws of creation, in order for divinity to decide to have a physical experience, divinity is conscious, and everything divinity creates is consciousness. So therefore, we have this idea, in some modalities we talk about creator of all that is. In theta, we talk about that one. So if you kind of think that creator is divinity, but it's the divinity consciousness of creation, creator itself. So it's the consciousness of physical creation. So outside of creator, we then actually have a different level or different consciousness of divinity or an expression. And then we have source. We have a few other things which I won't go into because people get confused and misuse them. So the creator of all it is consciousness. So everything that creator creates has consciousness. And this is a very important understanding. So when we're looking at the laws of creation, every law of creation has consciousness. Now we can split the laws of creation into kind of the physicality, physical creation, and metaphysical. So we've got the laws of things like the law of gravity, the law of mathematics, the law of sound, and the law of electricity, and we've got the physical side. And then we've got more things like the law of attraction, polarity. Talk a bit about polarity. I think it's a little bit misunderstood, but so laws of polarity, law of vibration, law of focus, law of love, law of compassion, law of consciousness. Now, technically, if we look at it and break it down in that point of view, it's a good thing for the clearing we're going to do. But one thing to bring in and understand is that as divinity created creator, and as all of the laws have consciousness, all of the laws are created out of consciousness. So technically, there's no huge difference between something like the law of gravity and something like the law of attraction, or something like the law of focus, or the law of alignment. No law has more consciousness than another one. But our conditioning is that one can be bent and one is exact and there's nothing we can do about it. And it's this conditioning that we really need to look at when we're working with the laws. So forgive me if my eyes are going off. I know there's an AI that can kind of do that, but I've got a lot of stuff written down here. So when it comes to the laws, we've got lower and higher laws. Okay, so the Tibetans talk about the universe being created out of compassion. And the law of compassion is the highest law that there is. Now, for me, when we talk about the law of compassion, I like to make one distinction. Okay, so if we're going up through levels of consciousness, we've got, and we're looking at, say, the power versus source vibrational chart. If we think of oneness consciousness, Christ consciousness, pure source consciousness as unconditional love or allowance, underneath that is the law of compassion. We hit the law of compassion first, and then we hit this sense of Christ consciousness. So compassion, if you look at compassion, compassion has an understanding of suffering. Christ consciousness is unconditional allowance and acceptance. It's I accept you regardless of what you're doing. You could be hurting me, torturing me, and I hate what you're doing, but that does not change the love that I have for you. Compassion almost has a name to, you're doing this and I love you anyway. You're doing this and I love you for it. It's got an element of forgiveness in it. It's got an element of, I see the pain that you're in and I'm going to hold you in that. So it kind of comes down one vibration, or just a tiny, not down a vibration, but just a tiny little bit. And so it's out of that divinity is created. So the highest law is the law of compassion. And as we connect into the different elements of the laws, we can then become a conduit for them and we can use them. So the law of compassion, the highest law, through the law of compassion, you could do absolutely everything else. So if you think of an avatar, someone like Jesus or Buddha or Nimkoli Baba or Amma, if you want more recent ones, or Krishna, or any of the avatars that you want to talk about, and I'm not going to start going into the religious side of who's important, who's right, who's wrong, all that kind of thing. I have my own bits on the different vibrations. Every avatar that you can talk about is 100% purely embodied with compassion, and they can do the miracles come through that. So we do have the miracles one, which is the divine magic being instant manifestation of thought on one side, but then we also can then connect into that in a slightly different way, or clear and have a deeper bridging, deeper connection into divine magic and miracles through the laws. Okay, and so again, with the divine magic and miracles, and I just want to be able to do this and make things levitate, fantastic. But what we're really doing is releasing conditioning and resistance to anything that we've got, whether that is reading, psychic gifts, whether that is manifesting. And so where we're looking at the laws, we have an opportunity to deepen our alignment with a specific aspect of divine consciousness that is within creation, and also clear conditioning at a deeper level specifically related to whatever the expression of divine magic is that we are trying to do. I hope that makes sense. This does trying to keep it simple. Again, depending on where you're looking at this might get a little bit more complicated. But, so, the laws, right. Can't give you a list of all of the laws because I don't know all of the laws. I don't use all of the laws myself. But I do use a few, and some of them are pretty fun and pretty handy to work on. So, some laws are 100% unbreakable, not even allowed to try. So, the law of free will. There's a whole thing in mythology or non-mythology, whatever you want to call it, where we have the Nephilim. We talk about these divine beings coming down to earth. You've got the Cyclops, you've got all the kind of the ancient gods, and then we talk about in religion, in Christianity, we talk about the abyss, which is kind of prison for demons. Some things are already in there. So the one law we're not allowed to break or can't break is free will, right? Another law, so we then have hierarchies of laws. So for instance, we might have the law of sound, and then the law of music, and then underneath that might be the law of vibration, or the other way around. Not really sure. Again, don't use that hugely. And we might have the law of attraction, and then the law of manifesting, and then the law of vibration underneath that, or the other way around. So some of them are very bendable, some of them are absolutely not bendable, and some of them we don't know that we can bend them and we kind of can, and some of them we can scrub completely. And that is where it starts getting more complicated. So for this, just to simplify it down, we're not going to talk about all of them, but we'll go through a couple. So the law of time. So we're looking at the physical laws first. The law of time is a fantastic one. Little Easter egg. I've got a whole thing around working with time, bending time, on the subscription thing. It's a lovely one. A lot of teachers in there's one particular modality where to be a teacher, you actually learn to work with time on your second course, and it's a 6-year kind of training to do it all. And your second course you start working with time. Now, time is an interesting one because time, if we look at physics, we know that time doesn't actually exist, but it does exist. We need time to have a physical experience. There are ways of using time for healings. If you collapse time, in Vortex Healing, which I am not a Vortex teacher. Vortex Healing Divine Energy Healing TM, run by and developed by Rick Wyman. All rights to him. They do a lot of work in collapsing time, which is absolutely awesome. It's a very powerful technique to use. What I like, one of the teachers I had a long time ago used to be able to extend time. And they talk about you're trying to go on a long car journey, or you're going on a long car journey. It's a 2-hour journey. You're late, and you want to get there in half an hour. You can actually start bending and collapsing time. But to do that, actually quite a tricky one. There are a few ways of using it. I'll put in the again, that's in the subscription and in the advanced. One thing I do like to do with time, productivity. You can actually extend your experience of time during the day, and that's actually quite an easy thing to do. That's how I use time now. But also, time is a really important one because it's a soft one that we can use. It's one that we can bend, so we start actually using it. It starts working up our belief in our ability that we can work with the laws of creation, and also the ability to be ageless. It's a big one with time. So one of my things about aging is that we age according to our concept of time. So if I, when I was younger, thought a 50-year-old was really, really old, and I had a 50-year-old that was really, really old and run down, or a 60-year-old or 70-year-old, then as people are saying, oh, what's your birthday? And as you're growing, you're telling your body, I'm getting old now, I'm getting old now, I'm getting old now. And then when you're trying to fight that, you're like, no, I'm not getting old, which then creates the attachment to the aging that you're trying to avoid. And so starting to work with time is a very good one for aging and becoming a little bit more ageless. Time. Law of nature, another physical one. Love the law of nature. Law of nature, working with the law of nature is quite fun because you do get to change the weather. Now, that's a very easy one. I actually know a guy that used to teach school kids to do that, to kind of, I want to say disadvantaged, poor areas with unhappy children. He would work with them. He was a life coach, and he would teach them to work with time. In Bali, classically funny, in Bali, when you're getting married, you can pay a guy who's a weather shaman, and he will make sure that on your wedding day, it's super sunny. And I was in Bali just after lockdown, or just at the end of lockdown, and some of the locals were saying how much rain there had been. And the reason they were saying there was so much rain was because there'd been no weddings, so they didn't have the shamans making sure that it was sunny. Weather is quite an easy one. You can't actually force nature, because nature is a lady, and sometimes she'll say yes and sometimes she'll say no, but that's a lovely one to work with. Then we've got things like Einstein, worked with the law of mathematics. We've got things like Tesla, worked with the law of electricity. I know some people don't work with the law of gravity. And if we want to do things like levitation, that kind of thing, the law of gravity. So physical laws, much harder to work with because of the conditioning that we can't do it. Then we've got the laws which I think are much more valuable to work with, but less impressive to work with in terms of impressing people and doing tricks, that kind of thing. So the law of manifesting and the law of attraction. This is fundamental to our healing process. But one thing that we can actually bring in with that is the law of alignment. So we bring the law of alignment, the law of focus, bring it in with the law of manifesting and the law of attraction. We start understanding and start looking at, we can then use that for our shadow work to work out what our blocks are in relation to this. And once we have all of our energy lined in one go, again, I'll put this into some other areas. Things like mind reading. Mind reading, we're looking at the law of truth and all the other laws. Okay, and then the law of prophecy would be the law of truth and the law of time. So once we start connecting with that, then what else have we got? Mind reading. Then we've really started things like astro projection, where we're starting to move and travel and astro travel, even just in consciousness. We can then look at, again, the law of time. We can look at the law of relativity. We can look at the law of truth, and also the law of illusion. The law of illusion is a very important one, particularly when it comes to working with our physical reality. So if we're doing stuff with the physical reality, we want to understand that physical reality is an illusion, is a holographic reality that we're creating. Once we do that, we kind of let go of our conditioning. Now, that's a lot. Okay, so what we're really looking at in terms of the blocks when we're working with these things. I'll put a lot of this into the write-up so you can kind of download it and have a look at it. It should be under the video, again, depending on what you're looking at. So where we're looking at this and the blocks that we need to release to heal these things and to develop more fluidity and proficiency in working with this kind of stuff is really related to our belief in what is possible in our physical reality. Now, if you think about it, a lot of our belief systems are genetic, and a lot of this is going to come down through genetics. So to get that deep is a little harder. Again, discuss that somewhere else. But again, what we're going to look at, I'm going to pick up the blocks here, is I find working on each individual gift, if you want it, is a much deeper way of developing an affinity with that gift. We can do the whole miracles, healing, and just work on the whole thing. Super important, keep doing it. But when it comes to developing a gift like mind reading, like the gift of prophecy, yes, there is a certain divine element to that, particularly with the gift of prophecy. We can be given prophecies through our relationship with divinity. But when we're looking at developing those gifts a little bit further, then rather than doing the whole thing, it's good to actually look at individual blocks as they relate to bending time, mind reading, prophecy, that kind of thing. So for instance, mind reading, although a lot of this is on psychic reading, individually looking at mind reading from the point of view of the law of truth and a lot of the other laws, law of compassion, super important, because then we've got no blocks to it. Do we actually have a right to listen into somebody's mind? And there is a huge ethics thing there. I remember being in Ecuador. I'm sitting there and someone's trying to mind read me, and I felt physically violated. In my code of ethics, that is absolutely fundamentally wrong. I looked at them and they're like, oh, what are you, they didn't seem to think that there was anything wrong with that. And absolutely there is. You don't sneak peek on people. So boundaries are a super important one. But I've got a list here. Okay. So what I will do is I'll do individual videos, like on the subscription side of things, we'll do individual videos. So here we're going to put some of the generic blocks. And then if you're watching this on the subscription, underneath the generic blocks, I'll start going through some of the more specific things like time, weather, working with the law of vibration, working with prophecy, mind reading. Sorry, I'm just reading them down here. And we'll look at some of the more specific blocks. There is a way when I'm doing one-to-ones of going through childhood conditioning. So if you think about divinity as our parent, divinity is responsible for our safety, everything we have, all this kind of stuff that we know that if we're good, then we'll get blessed by divinity, we hope, and if we're bad, then we get punished by divinity, and we have this. Our relationship with our parents is perfectly reflected in what we believe about divinity. So there is a deeper way of going through our childhood conditioning and starting to develop not a this is 100% possible, but it's possible that there is a possibility, and starting to just creating a little bit of movement in that gap, a little bit of movement in the relationship with individual laws. But we'll go into that later. So in general, just starting with something like the law of time, you can pick any one you want. So the first thing would be, it is wrong for me to be able to play with time. It's wrong for me to bend time, it's wrong for me to move time, it's wrong for me to stretch time. It is against God for me to bend time, stretch time, use time. Now this is a big thing that kind of then comes in with a lot of our religious conditioning, past lives, where we've got conditioning related to I'm not pure enough, I'm not good enough. That one comes up in a minute. So if I can do it, then obviously I'm doing it with dark forces, okay? Because I don't feel I'm good enough. So if I can do it, then it can't be God that's blessed me with this one. So that always comes up. Leading on to the next one. If I can bend time, stretch time, whatever it is, you'll read minds. If I have the gift of prophecy, I will be damned, I will be killed, I will be burnt, I will be imprisoned, I will be tortured. Going back to some decent human character traits that we've got there. If I can bend time, change time, alter time, work with time, my family will be against me. Now, if we go back to, again, the witch trials, heresy, it would be quite possible that, it could be your husband or your wife that turned you in. If they found you doing something, or if you could, like, you always knew what they were thinking, they might go to the local priest and turn you in, even though they love you because of their immortal soul. So we have this whole thing that I'll be betrayed, I'll be rejected, I'll be cast out. I don't have the right to play with time. I don't have the right to bend time. I don't have the right to alter time. I don't have, that's a permission thing. I'm not worthy. Okay, I'm not worthy of being given the right to bend time, change time, etc., etc. If I try, I will fail. If I try to bend time, I'm going to fail. Now, this is again something with our parents, but also we do have a pretty much 100% belief in a lot of things we can't do. I know that I can't, if I jump off this, I cannot float. I cannot fly. I know this. But actually, we need to kind of start getting rid of that consciousness now. Again, with yoga, with the meditations, with the siddhis, when we're going up to higher consciousness, we no longer feel attached to physical reality. We can bring in that and bring ourselves up. But where we're altering with physical reality, looking at the 100% belief in the fact that we are going to fail is a really, really, really important one to keep going through, keep releasing the different elements of that. And I won't belong. This is another one we get with the star seeds. So if you are a star seed, and you've come down to Earth, then one minute you had these gifts, now you're an Earthling, and Earthlings don't have these gifts. Also, society, if I can do this, I'll be shunned, I'll be rejected, I'll be kicked out of society. If I can do this when I'm an angel, when I'm divine, or not an angel, but when I'm, before I incarnate, I might have this idea of what that might be like, but as I incarnate, I know that physicality, I'm physically real, I've got to get real, I've got to grow up, I've got to get with the program. All those times when you're a child and you're told, don't be so stupid, don't be so silly, you've got such a great imagination, that kind of thing. We need to look at those and undo that. I'll put this underneath there. And yeah, if you are looking at this on the subscription, obviously we're going to go a little bit more into that. So I'm thinking what I'll probably do, you can already go through those with the normal thing. Maybe on the subscription, I'll go through those, and on the advanced or pro, we'll start looking at the childhood conditioning. We'll see. Anyway, I hope that makes sense, and I hope it wasn't too fast, and I didn't waffle too much. Anyway, thank you.